procedures. One of the things we'll talk about later in this ordinance is the procedures that we'd like to see all committees follow. And I truly appreciate in the past Ms. Strickland bringing up issues of quorums and minutes and the deficits that we may have seen in how things are kept regarding minutes. I'd like to tighten them up in this ordinance. So of course, failure to follow procedure, decorum in meetings, and of course anything that they could bring the town into disrepute, I think is also an issue. So the manager doesn't have the authority, but the manager has the authority to recommend to you, and you as the council are the ultimate authority with regard to removal, appointment first of all, and then removal. I'd actually like to call on Dana, if I can, to talk about C, and the manager and I discussed this, in that C requires things that are already in place in other sections of our procedures. And Dana, if you can comment on that, are you prepared to comment on that?
Sure. The policies and procedures manual covers purchase orders and the process for expenditures and budget authority and so forth. And of course, then we have a budget ordinance that dictates the amounts that are approved for spending. And then in terms of the amounts, the manager has approval up to $10,000 to sign contracts and so forth, and just as long as they're budgeted. So he can't go outside the budget anyway. So this statement here actually is really unnecessary because there are other town policies that dictate this section, and this is too brief to cover what it needs to cover, and it really should say, please refer to the other town policies or something along those lines.
So you're deleting that?
There's a recommendation that it be deleted.
So
Yes,
C
again,
is not going to be there at all then?
of course, it's up to you all, but the issue that we have raised is it's duplicitous of other county policies. Other town policies, and as Dana just said, it's a very brief statement to talk about a very big issue. Okay? And I would think that the manager would take it upon himself when counseling or tutoring, teaching a new committee chair as to what the procedures are for purchasing and so forth. Okay. So our recommendation would be to delete it. In terms of item D, the manager has the authority to disband a committee. Most of your committees are created via ordinance, and no body except council can repeal an ordinance. So we've simply changed the language to say that he can recommend to council that a committee be disbanded or obviously repealed from ordinances if it's completed. Basically, it's completed its mission. Many of your, as I see right now, potentially the comprehensive plan committee may fit into that category, but quite frankly, the other another 7 committees, other committee reports that I see right now are standing committees that you're going to have long range. But just for instance, the comprehensive plan.
It was an ad hoc committee anyway.
Right. But the perfect,
Yeah.
The 2 would potentially go away. Services.
Okay.
But again, to the extent that it was created by act of council, it can only be disbanded or otherwise deleted or gone out of existence based on your recommendations. Okay. Michael brought to my attention that one of his designees, in this particular section, section E, we talk about the designee being an employee. Dana and myself and Mr. Hill are contractors. So we wanted to make sure that to the extent that there are committees that you want to delegate, the manager wants to delegate oversight to an independent contractor, that be, so the only change to that is to insert the independent contractor. No change to F. What the manager and I talked about with regard to procedures, as written in your package, it talks about parliamentary procedures. However, there's an excellent book that was published by the Institute of Government about suggestions for rules of procedure for small local government boards. And they're relaxed in terms of parliamentary rules, or what we think is Robert's Rules of Order, but they still have the statutorily required elements, but it takes a less formal approach. The manager and I spoke, and this is a publication that's currently available. For those of you that know Fleming Bell, he's the author of the publication. It is currently available from the Institute of Government. What the manager and I spoke of is simply purchasing copies of those for each chair, and let that be their guideline, and certainly some education as to what is in those rules would be sufficient when a new chair comes on board, and the responsibility for that training would fall upon the manager. But that, I think, addresses Ms. Strickland's continuous consternation about quorums and minutes and voting, because Mr. Bell covers that all in there.
You've read the book?
I have not read it.
It's not totally pro-government and versus and anti-people.
As far as
they are pro-government lawyers and they write pro-government. Right. That's my concern.
Yeah. I have referred to the publication. I have not, in a fit of insomnia, picked it up and read it from cover to cover. Okay. I have referred to it on several occasions to advise small boards about the ability to relax their rules that still meet the procedural requirements, but not with the formality that you would see of a board constituted much like this one.
Which we don't expect anyway.
Correct. Correct.
I just want the basics to be right.
The basics in terms of quorums, what constitutes a meeting, what constitutes a quorum.
The members, the roll call, ex officio, guest, actual voting members, ex officio, and guest. That's never set out.
Right. And I'm not sure they are, but to the extent that those are issues that the manager would like addressed with new committee members, certainly Mr. Hill and I can supplement that publication.
Okay, well, I just want to tell you, I have disagreed with Fleming Bell before, so I'm glad.
And certainly, if you want to adopt this policy, you certainly do not have to place into it this certain publication. We just thought it was a good guideline, the manager and I, in revising this policy. So what you have before you is the policy, the ordinance as placed in your packet, coupled with a revision that incorporates some of the practical aspects of its application and suggestions by the manager and legal staff as to how it may be revised to be a better working ordinance for purposes of transitioning committees to the manager for oversight. And certainly I'll entertain any questions you have.
Well, I certainly agree with, because the way B was written, I said absolutely not. You changed B1 to recommend as opposed to him having authority to appoint. Also, this is very broad. Engaging in any conduct that brings the town or the committee to which he or she is appointed into disrepute. I would ask that you add, or anything that violates the ethics and conflicts of interest form that they have to sign as a committee member.
So you want me to put that magical language of including?
I think it should. Otherwise, it gives Michael. I mean, this is more guiding and directive as opposed to subjective. This is objective, and it takes the subjectivity away. Anything that's more objective is better.
And what I was actually thinking was that there's an area within our committee ordinances that establish those conflicts of interest and ethics, so that this should probably refer directly to that ordinance directly, which then would cover that element within it. That would also, if it changed to a document, it changes it everywhere, instead of having to find it in all the different documents.
And what I would suggest, and again, to the extent the council wants to review this, make recommendations to the manager and legal staff when we bring it back for a vote in December with those changes, that's certainly fine. What I would suggest, Ms. Strickland, with regard to is anything which he, determines, wrong word, brings